Have you ever wondered how entire gods can vanish, not just from memory, but from the very fabric of belief itself? In the dense forests of Orissa, carved in stone and forgotten beneath layers of creeping moss, lies the face of a deity no one prays to anymore. The chisel marks still show where ancient artisans gave life to the divine, but there is no name spoken, no incense offered, no stories told around fires. It is as if this god was erased. Not by conquest, but by time itself. The Indian subcontinent is a vast repository of faiths, rituals, and divine figures. Today, we know the pantheon of Hindu gods, Vishnu, Shiva, Durga, gods who have endured for millennia, gods who once held sway over entire regions, gods who commanded temples, armies, and empires. But buried beneath that enduring mythology is another world, a shadow pantheon, and then vanished. Who were they, and why did they disappear? To understand the lost gods of the Indian subcontinent, we must step back far, back to a time before Hinduism as we know it, before Sanskrit scriptures, before even the Vedic chants rang out in the northern plains. Let us begin in the Indus Valley, around 2600 BCE, in what is today Pakistan and western India, rose the cities of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, meticulously planned, technologically advanced, and yet religiously enigmatic. Archaeologists have unearthed thousands of seals from these sites, one in particular, seal 420. As it is known in museum records, shows a figure seated in a yogic posture, surrounded by animals. The truth is, we don't know his name. Horns curve from his head. Some call him Proto-Shiva, but that's only a guess. The Indus script remains undeciphered. Their gods remain silent. The figure on that seal may be a forerunner of Pashupati, Lord of Beasts, later absorbed into Shaivism. And yet even among these deities, some vanished from favor, or offers prayers to the once mighty Indra, king of the Vedic heavens, now reduced to a tempestuous side character in later mythology. Or he may be someone else entirely, a god whose myth never survived the collapse of the Harappan world around 1900 BC. When the Saraswati River dried and trade declined, cities fell silent, their gods fell with them. Centuries later, as Indo-Aryan tribes migrated into the subcontinent, they brought with them a new pantheon, Agni, Indra, Varuna, and the ever-elusive Mitra. Here, long before Brahmins brought Sanskrit or the Mauryas carved empires, tribal communities worshipped gods unlike any found in the Vedas. These gods of sky and fire enshrined in the Rig Veda around 1500 BCE began to dominate religious life. These are not abstract deities of philosophy. They are local, earthy, powerful, who today worships Varuna as the supreme celestial god. The anthropologist Verrier Elwin, in his 1939 book The Baiga, recorded chants to spirits that no longer receive offerings. He was the center of a native Dravidian religion that defied northern norms. But the story of divine extinction doesn't end there. Other local gods like Kotravai, the fierce mother of war and victory, were subsumed into Durga, their names fading. Travel east, deep into the forests of Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand. The Gond people still speak of Farsapen, the god of justice, whose symbol is an iron axe, and Lingapinyu, the guardian deity of boundaries. But alongside her, old scrolls mention lesser-known deities, Raktabati, a goddess of fevers, and Olabibi, who emerged in Islamic Bengal as a syncretic goddess of cholera. Yet even among the Adivasi, some gods have already slipped away, unrecorded, unremembered, unnamed. Oral traditions tell of forest gods whose shrines once dotted the landscape, now overtaken by sal trees and silence. They speak of them, he wrote, as if speaking of a relative long dead, once fierce, now forgotten. Instead, they are simply outgrown, absorbed, replaced. We might be tempted to think this divine attrition is a relic of the ancient past, but the tide of spiritual forgetting continued even through historic dynasties in the Tamil country of the Deep South. Before the rise of Brahmanical Hinduism stood the worship of Murugan, not as the sanitized warrior son of Shiva, but as a fierce, independent god of hills and war. Ancient Sangam literature from 300 BCE describes Murugan as a red god, draped in peacock feathers, receiving blood offerings from tribal chieftains. Today, Murugan survives barely altered in Tamil Nadu and among the Tamil diaspora. But what about his companions? The forest god Ayanar, once venerated as a powerful village protector, now exists mostly as a clay statue beside highways, his role eclipsed by the more universal deities. And then there are the gods who didn't even get that much of a legacy. In Bengal, medieval texts refer to a goddess named Shatala, born from folk traditions associated with disease and healing. She is worshipped even today in rural areas, especially during times of illness. The older gods faded. These figures had vibrant cults in the 17th and 18th centuries. Local gods associated with blood rituals were removed or demonized. It is also a palimpsest, a layered manuscript. In many places, old gods linger beneath new names, yet they are now nearly forgotten, barely surviving in scattered verses and whispered songs sung by elderly women or dismissed. As it spread across Gujarat and Rajasthan, local gods were often rewritten into subordinate roles, guardian deities or attendants. How does a god die? Not in the way we think. They are not struck down in battle. They are not banished. A shift in culture, a change in language. The gods are stories, and when the story no longer fits, the god disappears. One of the most chilling revelations comes from the Buddhist texts of early medieval India. In the Mahavamsa, a Pali chronicle from Sri Lanka, the early spread of Buddhism to the subcontinent involved deliberate conversions of sacred sites. In many places, yakshas, powerful nature spirits, were subdued by the Buddha or his monks and converted into protectors of the Dharma. The god is not destroyed, he is repurposed. And yet, some yakshas resisted. In ancient Mathura, inscriptions mention deities like Kubaraka and Hariti, once feared and adored, whose images were later adapted into Buddhist iconography, but their original myths lost. The same happened with Jainism, and when it goes out, even the gods can be lost. The central figures remain the Tirthankaras, the enlightened ones. The 12th century text Prabandha Chintamani even records a tale of King Kumarpala of Gujarat converting to Jainism and banning animal sacrifices, but they remain silent witnesses to the ever-shifting landscape of human faith. The belief was clear: gods can be disciplined, but the subcontinent is not just a graveyard of dead deities. Take Jagannath of Puri. Most worshippers today see Jagannath as a form of Krishna, but the earliest tribal origins of this deity are very different. Like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Which forgotten god would you want to know more about? And what, in your eyes, makes a god truly immortal? Scholars like Hermann Kulk and A.K. Mishra have noted that Jagannath may have evolved from a tribal wooden god worshipped by the Savara people long before the temple was built. His strange, round-eyed form is unlike any classical Hindu image. It is a clue, perhaps the only one, to an older, obscure divinity. And what of the pre-Islamic gods of the northwestern frontier? In the rugged valleys of what is now Pakistan's Chitral and Kalash regions, ancient Indo-European gods continued to be worshipped well into the 20th century. The Kalash people, often mistakenly called the descendants of Alexander's army, actually retained a unique polytheistic religion until very recently. Their god Balyomain was a deity of fertility, winter festivals, and divine intoxication. Another, Desolik, guarded women and families. But even these gods are now retreating. As modern pressures grow, the Kalash youth convert, temples collapse, and the old stories are no longer told. The gods are dying quietly, not with thunder, but with forgetfulness. And so we return to the forests of Orissa. The stone face lies there still, half-buried, moss creeping over the ancient gaze. Was it a tribal god? A local incarnation of a pan-Indian deity? A forgotten Buddha? No one knows. But what we do know is this: divine memory is not eternal. It is a fragile fire passed from voice to voice, shrine to shrine. Yet perhaps they are not entirely gone. In lullabies sung by grandmothers in remote villages, in the quiet corners of rural temples where no one else goes, in half-broken terracotta statues found in the riverbed after the monsoon, in these whispers, the lost gods still breathe. They may never return to full power. They may never again command kingdoms or inspire epics. And that brings us to the most haunting question of all. If gods can be forgotten, which of today's gods will be lost 1,000 years from now? Will future archaeologists unearth our sacred stories and puzzle over their meanings? Will today's deities be seen as myths or remembered as truth? In the next episode, we'll journey into the lost temples of the Kola Seas, where sunken sanctuaries off the coast of Tamil Nadu tell of a time when gods ruled the oceans. If this journey through forgotten divinities moved you, don't let it end here. You've been watching History Off the Map, where we uncover the past that history books forgot.